Hello and welcome to Well Capitalized. I'm your host, Bobby Kingsbury, Managing Director at MCM Capital Partners. Today I have with me Mike Tyner, Chief Operating Officer at Andover Corporation. Thank you for being here, Mike.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Mike, it's an interesting experience right now and a unique time for you, given the fact that you're fairly new after the acquisition. We just acquired Andover Corporation roughly 4 months ago, so you have a lot of fresh information, and maybe the wounds are even fresh after the
Not too many wounds.
Yeah, after the transaction. So if you could you please explain a little bit more about what Andover does, as well as a little bit more on your background?
All right. Well, Andover Corporation is a coating company. We manufacture thin film optics for aerospace, the medical industry, life sciences. It's a vacuum deposition process. We have 14 coating chambers. We coat for universities and a lot of the prime defense contractors all over the country.
Excellent. And then how long have you been at Andover Corporation?
So I used to go half a days at high school, leave at 12 o'clock and show up at Andover Corp, and I would work from 6 o'clock to 7 or 8 o'clock at night. At the time, there was only the two owners and a friend of mine who worked there that got me the job. And started from there, went full-time in June when I graduated from high school, and the story continued from there. But
so you were a band of four.
A band of four. I think we were doing about $20,000 a month.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And then fast forward 39 years later, how many employees?
55, and we're hoping to do just under 8.5 million this year.
Great. So now, 39 years later, there was a unfortunate situation where the founder and business owner passed away, and you guys had started going through a sale process, which was probably a little bit scary and different for you guys, kind of not knowing what was going to happen. What were some of the biggest concerns that you had going into this transaction?
Well, when you hear the company is up for sale, your first concern is, are we going to have a company? Going forward, are we going to have a company that's Andover Corp, or is it going to, be purchased by someone who's going to, dissolve the company, sell off the equipment? So that was the biggest fear. I mean, we were assured right away that that wasn't going to be the case, that it was a good, viable business, and looked like a great opportunity for someone to come in and purchase us and keep us going.
And so you had gone down the path, or the state had gone down the path of hiring an intermediary, and for the business owners who are watching this and considering exiting their business, what were some of the, unknowns that you had uncovered during the process? Some things that you really didn't understand or didn't expect going through it, in terms of maybe time that was necessary in hiring an investment banker and going through a process. What were some of the unknowns that you uncovered?
Once the broker was hired, there was a lot of support. So we did, the brokers did I really do in the NFL, the brokers did a great job. They provided a lot of information, but they required a lot of support from, I'd say probably a team of 3 or 4 of us. A lot of support as far as, the actual selling of the company. What I mean, selling, like putting your best foot forward, showing where we were going, reporting, the opportunities, things like that. So it really was a lot of work, but it was a really good cooperative effort. They did a really nice job presenting the company, representing where we were going. They did a nice job with the data package. I think you guys could attest to that.
Yeah.
Too. But like I said, on the other end, there was a lot of participation. We were probably meeting, a few hours a day, probably every day there for weeks and weeks. And then once the process started, we were really spending a lot of time with clients, again, putting our best foot forward for the company. But there was also a part of that where you're selling yourself too as you're going forward. You want to make sure I'm around too with the company as we go forward. But those were some of the things. Once you got into the process, you pause and said, you really do have to start thinking about where your place is in this, along with the company, and as you're moving forward, and how we're interacting with the brokers. But they did a great job representing the company. I didn't have any expectations going in, so I'm not sure if there was anything that surprised me. I know that in the end, it was a lot of work. So, and meanwhile, the expectation was, to keep the business going and going well.
Yes.
So we did, during that whole process, we actually finished up what was our best year ever. We're hoping to have our best year ever this year in 2019, but we did finish that up actually with all of that distraction going on, which really did, it actually helped expedite some of the delegation that was required, and some of the delegation that was lacking with the previous owner, where it was a privately held company and kind of tightly managed. We really weren't given the opportunity to take the risk to delegate. So I think that process actually, in a lot of ways, helped us delegate, because we were tied up in the process, and other people did step up and do the work. It actually made us stronger going forward.
Great. And I think a lot of business owners don't realize the amount of time and effort it takes, not just from them, but from their executive team, and takes them away from really running the business. You have to choose an investment bank, you have to write the memorandum, you have management presentations, and then maybe most of all, diligence. When you choose the partner that you're going to move forward with, diligence is
that's the next
a lot of work.
That's the next level, right? You go through the beginning process and kind of the courting, and then when when you're all done, the diligence was intense.
Yes.
But again, in the end, a positive process that showed you a lot of strengths and weaknesses of your company.
So Mike, when you were going through the process and putting the process together with the intermediary that you hired as an executive management team, you probably put together some sort of checklist that you were looking for in a buyer, the attributes you were looking for in a buyer. What were some of the things that were on that checklist? What were you looking for in a partner?
We were looking for a partner that could help us grow the business, obviously, and be a mentor to us as we were moving forward to the management team. But we were also looking for a partner that wasn't going to come in and change the company dramatically and let us continue on the successful path that we were on. So we had many of the people that came in and interviewed had really specific roles for us. So it was kind of funny. We had a company that was a satellite company, and they had a specific industry. They were selling satellites, and they wanted us to exclusively make the filters for their satellites, and it was really interesting. But a little scary as far as just
so
kind of
narrowly
changing.
focused.
So narrowly focused, and obviously we were going to continue to do some of the other stuff, but they were talking about significant growth in kind of a direction that was different. So again, we felt like we had a good plan for growth. Having a good partner to supply the capital and give us the kind of the fuel in the engine to move forward, I think was probably the number one thing. And I mean, me personally, I wanted to see the company continue as it was, in the culture that we had. So.
It always goes back to culture, right? A lot of times it goes back to culture.
I really do. I mean, we have a great shop. We have a happy workplace, and I think we all do our best work in that type of environment, and you guys have been great in continuing that.
Great. So did the sale process create any managerial issues for you, whether it was with other members of the executive management team, whether it was with direct reports or throughout the business? Like you said, when to find out that the business was for sale, it's kind of an uneasy feeling, especially for most of the employees. Did it create any managerial issues for you?
It did, and I think they did a really good job solving that, and I think they did a really good job of putting a team together that was an attractive team. So I think the brokers and our president John Cotton, they did a nice job. They thought that out. So we immediately, I was promoted from the sales manager, outside sales manager, to the vice president of the company, and then we took two other key employees, and they were moved up to they were given the titles of vice presidents of their prospective departments. And that was an excellent move. Again, for anyone who came in, it immediately showed, who the key employees were. I think they did a nice job of positioning the company. So again, it was easy to see the lines of authority, and again, that gave a boost to us too, and let us know that we were the guys that they were going to represent and help move forward. And it ended up being the people who received a little equity in the company also. So I think they did a good job of laying that out. I thought it was well thought out, that portion of it.
Great. Did you have to deal with any rumors in the marketplace? I mean, some of those are typically tough to overcome. But going through a sales process, were there any rumors that you guys had heard in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think they did a really good job. So the owners were really concerned. There were two phases of that. When the owner got sick, they were very concerned. We were a privately held company, and the owner of the company was well known in the industry. So when he got sick, they were afraid that was going to affect the business in a negative way. So that was almost a precursor to the sale, and I would say that we handled that the same way. So we tried to keep the sale of the company quiet also, to kind of protect the brand of the business. Once you got past that, once Richard passed away, the people that were close to him in the industry, when I would go to the trade shows and things, people were asking what's going to happen. And I would always tell them that Richard left us with great bones. We're going to continue successfully, no matter who owns the company. Then when you got to the employee side, there were absolutely concerns that how would it affect the employees if it trickled down? Would we start losing key personnel? And if I had to do that over again, I would have addressed the employees on the first day and told them what we were going to do, what the scope of the sale was, that we were looking, because the scope of the sale always was find a partner that's going to let us continue to run the business as is.
So Andover has a unique and strong culture, to your point, in discussing cultures, both a retention and recruiting tool. And when we went into the company, it was something that we were really attracted to. I mean, you have a chef, you have a kitchen, you guys eat breakfast together, you eat lunch together. It just felt like a family.
Yeah, we do have a happy shop. Yeah,
I think it was very important to you guys. And during the process, what was your biggest concern? As most business owners, their companies, they've formed a unique culture. What was your concern going in that maybe that culture might not be?
Yeah, again, if depending on who purchased us, we were concerned that the culture would change. I was pretty confident that the culture wouldn't change if we kept our management team in place, because I think the culture was driven by the management team, and as long as we kept those guys in place, we would be in good shape. I think, and again, treat people fairly, put them in positions to succeed. I think the having the kitchen and the chef at our company is brilliant. It keeps people there all day. It helps with the social life, but people aren't running out for lunches. It keeps kind of the cliques down. We're all in the same room. Big conversation. People are available for questions during lunch. That was a really great idea, and has worked out really well over the years.
Having gone through the process, if from a business owner's perspective and they're watching this, can you articulate 2 or 3 things that maybe went smoother than anticipated, and then 2 or 3 things that maybe didn't go as smooth during the process?
I thought the business dinners and the meet and greets, those all went smoother than I thought, and those were all really good experiences. Interacting with successful businesses, people who are interested in your business, and then especially as the process went along and you were down to the 4 or 5 people that were really interested in you, it became a really flattering process. A lot of validation of what you were doing over the years, that there were so many people interested in how you were doing business and your culture in particular. So that was the nice surprise. The thing that I didn't like, because of the process also, we brought direct competitors in.
Yeah.
And there was really only one company that we took off-site. And I think, again, if you were, there's a certain amount of information that was just published for everybody to see.
Right.
Which, I mean, I think you could filter that down and maybe be a little more discreet with that. And then we actually had direct competitors that came in and toured the floor of our company that, still kind of makes me a little nervous. And, talked about our largest customers and industries and what separated us. So, I mean, if I was them, I'd go home and say, well, this is what separated them. Why don't we try that?
Right. Right.
So that was something that, again, at the time I wasn't, I had made some recommendations, but I would caution any business owner to really evaluate, you're really letting the,
fox in the hen house.
Exactly. So I think that's probably well worth the effort to slow the process down. We only went off-site with one company, and and that it had a completely different feel to it, but it because they were our competitor. So and there were different companies that had come in. We didn't hire a lot of people from outside the industry, but we had a couple people who had been through this, who had some really negative feelings about private equity coming in and buying companies, and had some stories that that we needed to circle back. But one of the companies that came in was one of the companies that a couple of the guys on the floor, because they were in the same industry, came in and had a bad experience with them. So it was like wildfire. It went through the shop that this company was interested. It was a large company, and it was like, wow. So we actually had some fires to put out, and really kind of told people that this was almost enough to disqualify. The fact that there were so many people on the floor, it was almost enough to put them in a different position.
Yeah. So you had talked about slowing the process down. Maybe that's something that you might have liked to see gone differently. Now, having been through it again, what are maybe some of the 2 or 3 things that you might have done differently, or maybe you thought the process might have been handled differently?
Yeah, again, that was the main one, to just watch for the competitive edge, maybe filter the information a little better that was online. And we talked earlier about maybe a little more straight talk with the employees as far as what was going on, the status of it, making them feel like they were involved in the process too, rather than keeping them in the dark.
So what did you do? They were kept in the dark until...
They were rumors that went around, and I really, at one point, we just had an all-employee meeting and just said, hey, this is what's going on, and this is the scope. So, like I said, I feel like if we did that from the beginning, it just has a different feeling.
Squashed all those rumors, and you wouldn't have had to deal with that, and people would have felt more at ease.
Yeah, because at that point we were in a trust, and the trust had assured the management team that they were going to find the right partner, and that obviously the selling price was part of it, but in the end, the right partner would be the deciding factor. That it wasn't necessarily going to be a top dollar thing. It was going to be the best partner within the legal responsibilities of the people who were responsible for selling the company. And I think if we started with that message, you still would have had, every time you have an all-employee meeting, there's 3 guys that leave with that you could never satisfy those 3. Yeah, we want to find those 3 guys, but I think we would have at that point. Like I said, and again, that was our culture anyway. We were all in together, so maybe a little bit of disconnect in that regard. That and maybe a little more trust in the employees. That hey, let's tell them what's going on, keep them informed, let them know where the landmarks are in the process, and kind of all together. I think that was the biggest thing, and really the only thing in the process that was a bit of a headache and caused some stress for our guys on the floor.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like I mentioned, we look at a number of different businesses, and oftentimes the consensus is to not tell the employees up front what's going on. And I don't know if entrepreneurs or business owners give the employees enough credit where they will be able to handle something like this. It doesn't need to be secretive, and the more you can get out in front of it, the better it's going to be. Now, there's obviously are some certain situations where it doesn't make sense, but I think most would benefit from telling them up front.
We have this transparency conversation at work, especially lately, because I'm a big transparency guy. Yeah. So we have the transparency conversation, and I feel like if you're transparent and someone takes you up on something, man, if you can't explain it, there's probably an issue there. So and then the reality of complete transparency is out there too. So you can't be a knucklehead about it. But the exercise of we're being transparent, and here's some unique feedback or things that you didn't expect to hear. I found that's been really valuable, and we kind of relive the exercise every day at work with the new management team. But that's something that I believe in, and I've taken a few lumps with that too. But I do think if you applied it to this, it's good advice. Mm-hmm. Like if there's something that you don't want to tell somebody, I think you need to look at that anyway, right? If there's something that you don't want to flow down to your employees, and again, it all depends where, I guess where you're at and where the end, what the end game is. So.
Now, earlier in the conversation, you talked about getting down to the last four of the management presentation, something that went smoother than normal. Yeah. It was, kind of it was flat, it was in a dating phase. Yeah. It was flattering. So now that we're done dating, right? And now that it's 4 or 5 months in, it's still early. We're still in the honeymoon phase. Yeah. But tell me what your experience has been so far.
It's just been great.
Candid, okay? Don't sugarcoat it. If it sucks, it sucks.
I love Harry. Honestly, it's so far it's been exactly as promised. We're reporting to you guys weekly. We have I'm smart enough to know that things are going really well, and that's probably another reason why it's gone so well. But it's just been exactly as advertised. You guys have been great. We knew you pointed out a couple things that we needed. We needed more help in our outside sales department, and we made that hire. We needed help in our finance department. From that, we concluded that if we made those adjustments in the sales, that we were going to need some more help on the tech level and engineering level. So we made 4 key hires in the first quarter, based on a cooperative effort with MCM. But no, it's been great. I feel like you guys have been great mentors, especially to myself. But I know the reality is if we have trouble, there'll be more involvement and more advice, and hopefully to a successful conclusion. Yeah.
I think we'd be there to help aid you, to provide guidance, sounding board for you and your team as you guys move forward, to help you get through some of those issues. Fortunately, it's early, things are going extremely well. Yeah. But I want to get back to what you said a few minutes ago about the employees, because a lot of times in terms of private equity, we're considered a lot of the bad guys or the dark force. And most of the time it's, they're going to increase earnings, increase value of a company by cutting, either by cutting employees, by cutting costs. And it's interesting to hear you say in the first 4 months of ownership, we have hired at least 6 people during that time frame. And I think from a private equity standpoint, what we want to do and to help you guys is to continue growth, to build a foundation for growth. And I hope we have portrayed that enough.
Yeah, we're planning for success. That's what we like to say at work. We're planning for success. We needed to, we're building momentum. So if I had a concern, if things continue to go this way, that our shop, as an old ops guy, want to make sure that you can actually produce the products that we're selling. And I think MCM was a great partner in that. I expressed that to Harry and you early, that I said, we have to be careful about the salesperson that we hire. We don't want to bring in work that doesn't, that isn't a good fit, that's
Right.
going to overrun the company, that's going to allow us to deliver the high quality and on-time delivery that's given us our niche in the market. And I think we did find, after a process that you guys were very helpful with, we found the right salesperson.
Great.
So.
Great. So now looking back holistically, you've been at the company for 39 years. Okay. Unfortunately,
I was just a baby when I started. So it's like 8.
So you've been at the company for 39 years. You started when you were 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
No child labor.
And you had an unfortunate event happen where the business owner had passed.
Yeah.
You've gone through a iterative sales process. You have found a partner that's hopefully going to help continue to grow your business so far. What advice would you give to a business owner or anyone else in an executive management team having been through this process when most of them haven't?
Advice, I guess some of the things we talked about, I think the transparency with the management team and the ownership and the employees, really about what's your goal? What are you trying to achieve by the sale of the company? And I guess that would just vary. Like in our case, I think we really wanted to keep the company going in the image of the previous owner, and I think we've done a nice job with that. We've kind of broken away from some of the conservative restrictions, but the company's always going to be run the way that he wanted to. So I would say, really kind of have a clear goal of what the scope of the sale is, where you're headed, and then bring everybody along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us today, man. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to many good years to come.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank you.
it. Thank you.